gathered here to ask President Obama to find his voice on human rights in China. Private and deferential diplomacy has not, I repeat, not produced results. So we urge the administration to finally and at long last to take up a new approach. The first step the President can take is to meet with the daughters and the family members of imprisoned Chinese dissidents. We're joined here today by the daughters and other family members of detained prisoners of conscience, including Gao Zhejiang's daughter, who is here with us today. Her father, as we all know, has suffered unspeakable and repeated torture because he championed freedoms hated by the Chinese leadership. His medieval medical parole and reunion with his family should be a top priority of the administration. Chen Guangzhen is also here with us today, who is a heroic figure. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by many of us in the House of Representatives. And Chen, the Chinese government, when Chen Guangzhen was released and then came to the United States, and then they took his nephew into prison under false charges. We believe he should be released from prison now, Chen Ka-kwei. Instead, he was sentenced. He's been mistreated in jail. There are others here that you will hear from, including the daughters and family members, who are the true heroes of freedom in China. The Chinese government today is in the business of breaking the minds, bodies, and hearts of those who demand justice, rights, and democracy in China. The repression is pervasive, it's unrelenting, and it's absolutely unnecessary, as those detained love their nation and want China to reflect its highest ideals. Those who rule China employ ugly and abusive methods of control to prop up their own political power and increase their personal wealth. The Chinese people deserve better. Last year, I held a hearing featuring many of those who are with us today. And we called the hearing, Their Daughters Appeal to Beijing, Let Our Fathers Go. And we had 5 daughters make an impassioned and very articulate appeal to Xi Jinping as well as to President Obama to raise their case. Unfortunately, and several of the daughters said during the hearing that President Obama has 2 daughters. He'll understand. So we said, and they asked to meet with him. So we sent the information down to the President, and we called over and over and over again. And after a half a year of asking the President to simply meet with the 5 daughters, we got back a very terse response that says he simply doesn't have the time. Mr. President, make the time to meet with the 5 daughters, and do it now. Yes, you do have 2 daughters, and so do I, Mr. President. I have 2 daughters. I know what it's like to care for a daughter, and to have that daughter care for you. Well, these 5 daughters have said, Mr. President, become our advocate and speak out on behalf of our imprisoned, or in the case of Gao Zhejiang, recently released, but certainly not free from his repression by the government. I would also point out that I've introduced legislation, H.R. 5379, called the China Human Rights Protection Act of 2014. That legislation would convey to the President very important tools to deny visas or to freeze the assets of any Chinese official who tortures and abuses freedom-loving dissidents like Gao Zhejiang. H.R. 5379 allows the President to sanction those officials who jail human rights activists, persecute ethnic minorities, tear down the crosses of churches that we're seeing happening in a huge display of intolerance. And remember, what they're doing now against the religious believers is against the officially recognized believers. I mean, these are the ones that have complied and comported with the dictates of the Chinese government, and their churches are now being decimated and destroyed as well. And of course, we raise, as I've been doing since 1983, the horrific, terrible practice of forced abortions and forced sterilization, crimes against humanity when they are committed by the Nazi regime against Polish individuals, no less crimes against humanity as they are systematically practiced by the Chinese government against the women and the children of the People's Republic of China. So we're calling on the President and the administration to publicly condemn the brutalities that have been faced by Gao Zhejiang and seek his medical parole, and to do it immediately. Meet with the families, as I said. Meet with those 5 daughters. Look them in the eyes. Hear their plea, and then amplify that plea to Beijing and to the Premier and President of China, and endorse the approach and the tools that we've included in H.R. 5379. The soft approach, if there even is one, has not worked at all. It is time to change it.
Thank you, Chairman, for your strong leadership on behalf of those who live under oppression throughout the world. For 30 years, you have served the nations of the world on behalf of freedom. Thank you, sir. We are grateful. We're standing with you today in solidarity with these young, precious girls. I have my own daughter here today, Grace. Grace stands in solidarity with these young girls on behalf of the oppression of their fathers. We understand and we recognize the plight that's taken place. I've worked in and with China for 25 years and greatly respect the calling of so many in that country, a calling to democracy, a calling toward religious freedom, a calling toward an ability for people to live out their lives in authenticity before God and before man. We need to stand with them and be a part of that. America has their own problems. Yes, we have violence, we have discrimination, we have drugs, we have many problems. We cannot come across as being all good and China's bad. We need to recognize with sincerity and humility the plight and the problems that we have today. But as we are honest with ourselves, we need to be honest with China. China has seen oppression. Its country suffers today from an economy for people who abuse and exploit an economy. They need people of principle. They need people of integrity, people of faith, people who follow their believers like I'm a believer in Jesus. Those people make good citizens. They won't be a part of corruption. That has been my message to the Chinese embassy when I had dinner with them not too long ago. That will be my message when I go to China next month. I will spend 10 days there because I believe the hope for China is the liberty of their people and the liberty for them to live in freedom. So thank you for being here today. We stand in support and solidarity with you. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll be very brief. It's important that you're doing this, and it's important that our government do everything they can to bring Gao to the United States so he can be rejoined with his family. He is in a very difficult spot. He is now released. We don't know how his health is, but it's important for Ambassador Baucus and our government to advocate to bring him back so he can be reunited with his family here in the United States. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I had just got back from China, and we brought some of these issues up with people who are taking us around. I think the mistake is that we believe, that some of our fellow members believe, that silence will have an impact. And I think the exact opposite is true. And my colleagues that are standing before you today are a testament to the belief that speaking up does make a difference. And as you go out throughout your lives, throughout the country, speak up is good. Now, a lot of times everybody's trying to make you feel like you're alone. You're not alone. And the champion in Chris, thanks. The champion in Chris's beliefs that I've got to know over these years is true and is a believer. And I just think that more of our colleagues need to speak up, and we need to pass this bill. And I'm honored here to stand with you to say that we want freedom for the people that have done nothing wrong but exercise their beliefs. We need freedom, and we need it now, and we need leadership from the White House. Thank you.